Hello, I'm Forest Focus as Nottingham Forest head into the final few hours of what could yet be a hectic transfer deadline day. We'll discuss all the ins and outs, plus reflect on yesterday's terrible defeat to West Ham and what it means for Nuno in the company of, first of all, Pete Blackburn. Pete, how are you doing?
Yeah, a bit miserable still, to be honest, after yesterday. That sort of hangover and not a boozy one hasn't really lifted yet. I'm still feeling a little bit livid about the whole thing, but yeah, we'll be all right, and hopefully this will be a nice cathartic chat as all the madness kicks off around us.
We shall see. Yeah, we'll see to what degree of madness it is. There was a lot of madness yesterday, certainly. Mark Sutherns, how are you doing?
Yeah, much like Pete. I mean, I watched the post-match. I've watched a lot of the reaction and agreed with a lot of what was said. And yeah, I was saying beforehand, it's probably the first time I've been angry at a Forest performance for a long time. I can't really remember previously being angry, because very often we were going into games we weren't expected to win or at least get a point. But yesterday was very different, and yeah, I'm not over it yet at all.
No, Fulham away last season, maybe. I don't know. Obviously,
it wasn't really anger, was it? That it was more the inevitability, wasn't it? I guess, but yeah, I guess Fulham away was a poor performance, but.
Yeah, well, we'll get into all the context around it, certainly, and all the chat around the manager. Mikey Clarke, how are you?
I'm all right. Am I going to have to be the positive one to offset everything? How does that? That's my USP is being negative.
That can't happen. The world will sort of explode or something. One of the signs of the apocalypse.
It's normally Greg, but Greg's not exactly sunshines and unicorns as normally, is he? So yeah, we'll see. Like I say, Greg will join us 5:30 till 6:30. Lewis is going to join us in 10 minutes till 7 o'clock, and hopefully someone will join me and Lewis from 6:15 or 6:30 or whenever till the end. But as ever, it's a bit all over the place. Right, so let's just run through what has happened or what could happen. Forest should have just announced Eric Da Silva Moreira has gone on loan to Rio Ave for a season. So that's one outwards done deal. Dilane Bakwa, earlier in the day, looked like he was definitely signing from Strasbourg, 35 million-ish. Medical to take place. Weirdly, though, Forest have since been linked with another bid for Adama Traore. So I don't see how they sign both, but we'll get into that. Also, 30-year-old Athletic Madrid defender Javi Galán is also going to sign, according to multiple reports. David Ornstein says we're going to give him a 3-year contract and a 1-year option, which sounds a bit mad to me, but we'll talk about that. Cuiabano should sign, so one of them is going to be getting a ticket to Olympiacos, I imagine, but we'll talk about that. And former Fulham youngster, or possibly current Fulham youngster, depending on what you read, Donald McNeely, should sign and then go out on loan to Wycombe. So there's quite a lot happening inbound. Taiwo could go to Werder Bremen, potentially, and Jota Silva probably will go somewhere. A couple of reports saying we've rejected 19 million euros, which I find hard to fathom. Sporting Lisbon and, of course, Botafogo touted there. And Zach Abbott is also mentioned as a possible loan outbounds. I don't know, Pete, what are you hoping for in the next couple of hours? Obviously, Bakwa would be top of your list, I imagine.
Yeah, no surprise to anyone that I'd say that, I don't think, given that he was someone that I don't know, was it months ago or weeks ago? I'm not sure, when we did our sort of recruitment post Alanga video. Still out there if anyone wants to have a look. It's aged quite well, I think, which is nice for once. Both Dan Cook and I think, if I'm right in recollecting, chose Bakwa and Ndoye as our sort of two people to bring in to hopefully use the Alanga money well and bring in some threats and all that sort of stuff. I haven't changed my view on Bakwa at all. I think he's a hugely exciting player. So much ability and so much potential, and a lot of room to grow as well. I think the one thing that makes it feel slightly odd for me is I just didn't foresee us being in a situation where we'd sign the players of the sort of profile we have already and then still be looking for another one of that sort of cash. And perhaps that's just a case of, my expectations or whatever need tweaking, but I didn't see it coming after the Hutchinson signing. I presumed it'd be one or the other, but tremendously exciting. I think Bakwa will bring skills that we possibly still don't have, and certainly will bring, a remarkable change in the depth of the squad. If you think that you can be in a position where you're bringing on two of Bakwa, Hudson-Odoi, Dan Ndoye, and McAtee or Hutchinson when you need to make a change, they're in a pretty serious situation. And I guess the thing people will say in immediate response to that is, well, we didn't yesterday. But I do think that's probably a bit of a harsh criticism, given that a lot of these players have only been in the building a week or two. So it's pretty early days yet. But anyway, yeah, I think Bakwa getting done would be really nice. Ideally, I'd like to see not an awful lot more than that. I don't think, really. I think we've plugged most of the holes in the squad now. The left back that we're talking about today, I think, is probably quite a sensible addition for a relatively small outlay. And from that point on, we look like a squad that can compete on all frontiers, really, ignoring what we saw on the pitch yesterday. But in terms of what we've got and the talent at our disposal, I think things are looking pretty good.
There are 700 people with us already, which is great. Do us a favour and hit like you haven't already. Adding to the slave labour of this channel, as Pete called it yesterday. If people see stuff on Twitter and want to drop it in the chat, do drop it in, and it'll help me out, because I'm trying to do a bit of everything, so I might miss some stuff. I mean, Mark, I'm not convinced, and Pete, I know you're not convinced that the Traore stuff is entirely legit and it'll happen. But what would you think, Mark, if we got him as well? Or surely we wouldn't need him and Bakwa, would we?
It's interesting, isn't it? It could, because obviously the Traore deal was cited as one of the deals that caused potential speculation. That it was one of the deals that caused conflict between Edu and Nuno. So, is the fact that this is being talked about today, is this an olive branch? Is this the club saying, "I'll tell you what, we'll get you that player that you wanted"? I mean, there's no question that right now, if you look at the way we've played since Elanga left, we don't have that raw pace to compensate for Elanga's absence. So Ndoye's come in and he looks a good technical player, perhaps a clever player, but he doesn't have that explosive pace. More's a pity, because he had opportunities where we could have done with that against West Ham. Traore brings that. It doesn't bring any form of consistency. It doesn't very often bring in product, but he does give you someone who can come off the bench and really ruffle feathers and have an impact. So I don't know. I mean, I'd be surprised if we get Traore and Bakwa in as well, because it's just a number of bodies we've then got in wide positions. Seems like we're overloaded in those areas. But yeah, I think it'd be an interesting one politically if Traore does come in. Is that the club saying, okay, Nuno, we'll get you that player if that's the one you wanted? My speculative point on that is that we got Hutchinson instead of Traore, and perhaps Nuno wanted Traore rather than getting Hutchinson in that position. So I don't see it happening, particularly if Bakwa comes in, but we'll see. It'd be a very interesting development given the situation at the club.
Lewis McGugan, good evening. How are you?
Hi guys, you okay? Sorry for the late arrival, but hopefully I can join in the conversation now.
Yes, well, let's do it. It looks like we're definitely going to sign a winger and a left back. Maybe, sure, we were discussing there the possibility of signing two wingers, which sounds pretty mad to me. But when you're looking at it, what holes do we need plugging in the next 2 hours for you?
Yeah, potentially. I think they've always spoke about there may be one or two more coming in. I would probably like to think we're concentrating on maybe trimming the squad, potentially people kind of leaving the building and just making sure that everything's kind of aligned in the dressing room. I think sometimes you can have too many bodies, and I've been in change rooms where there's too many bodies, and coming up with the kind of Europa League and making sure that they've got to pick the squad for that, and you don't want potentially any big surprises of people missing out on them squads, because that's no good for kind of the change rooms and the environment every day. So I think what you have to do is make sure that you do the right things in potentially trimming the squad and just making sure that the players that probably aren't going to get much football go out and play, and it keeps everyone on the toes, really.
Someone just made my ears bleed with a WhatsApp then. Sorry. I don't know who that was. Mikey, you text me before we started saying, surely we're not going to sign 6 players. Is that the worry? I don't think it's going to happen, is it?
I don't think it'll happen. I will say before I start, this is my favourite show that we do of the year, Transfer Deadline, because something usually happens, and it's Forest, right? So There's bound to be something crazy happening in the next couple of hours. Do I think we'll sign 6 players? Probably not. But you see all these links. It feels to me as if they've got clearly their first choice that they want to bring in, Bakwa. Maybe Traore is the backup in case that doesn't happen, because deals don't always happen right at the last minute. It doesn't feel like we need too much more. I think I'm in the same headspace as Pete. What I will say, and I'm sure we'll dissect the game, is what he's got, he just needs to utilise what he's got there, because we did have options yesterday and they weren't utilised. So for me, it's not a case of I look at any position in the team and think, blimey, that's weak, or, we need another centre-back, or we need another striker. I look now at the squad and I'm thinking, yeah, there's cover in most, if not all, areas. And all we need to really do now over the next couple of hours is, as Lewis said, move a few out that really aren't going to feature and perhaps other teams want. And if there is that special talent like a Bakwa who wants to come, then get him in. But it does not need a crazy Forest 2 hours. As fun as it might be, it doesn't need it. Just 1 or 2 for me.
Let's break down yesterday's game more then, and when stuff does break with transfers, then we'll flick back to that.
Are you sure we have to?
I'd like to. Yeah, maybe you can make me feel better about it. I don't know. I mean, I don't. Mark, you kick us off.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you want to say about the scale of how bad it was? I don't know. Was it that bad?
I love speculation. And if someone was saying to me, describe an outcome that would make you feel like the off-field events of the past 2 weeks have had an impact on things. Describe an outcome, describe a series of events where you'd think something's wrong. It's got to the players. It's starting to cloud judgment for Nuno. It's starting to affect his decisions. It's starting to affect player performance. If I was going to describe an outcome and a performance, it would more or less be the script we saw yesterday. Losing 3-0 to a team that have started the season badly, failing to create any chances from what seems to be a transformation in the way we play, and Nuno failing to turn to his bench for players that don't just bring cover, they bring more than that. They bring potentially their starters on that bench. And yet there we were struggling to find a way through against a West Ham side that have conceded 8 goals to that point. We didn't have a shot in the first half. He didn't make a change at half-time, which surprised me. And then when he made a change, he made 2 changes that were like for like. Basically, the events of yesterday left me feeling, yes, Nuno's judgment is being affected by the pressure he's under. Maybe you can argue, well, there's no argument. He's put that pressure on himself by what he's done and how he's used the media. And yes, I think it's got through to the players and affecting performances. Particularly, you've got to look at people like Gibbs-White, who had a very, very poor game. And we know he's close to Nuno. And it just made me feel at the end of the game like we've now got a manager who's clearly being affected by what's happened. It's, I think, affected his decision-making when it comes to using Hutchinson and Lewis in particular, who we're led to believe weren't players that he perhaps wanted to bring to the club. And it's got through to the players because there were so many poor performances yesterday. And the fact that he played Sengawe for the entire match up until the 89th minute is almost like, I almost saw that, was that a protest? As in, no, he's my player. I don't need Douglas Luiz in that position. I'll play Sengawe. And Sengawe has very rarely played the full 90 for us during his tenure. Maybe a few times at the end of the season, last season, maybe a couple of times this season, he's looked like he's capable of that. But he looked shot, didn't he, with 15, 20 minutes to go. And he didn't play well anyway. I don't know what he was doing on the pitch during that period where we conceded those goals to West Ham. And you could argue that he was culpable for 1, maybe even 2 of those goals. I had no choice but to think, yeah, things off the pitch are affecting us, both in terms of the players and Nuno's decision-making. And that is not a good place to be.
Yeah, I suppose so in a way. I'll throw this to Lewis. The only thing I would say was a week ago at Palace, they were all cheering Nuno and Morgan was going to make more noise for him. So I don't know, can things change that much in a week in a team, Lewis? What do you think about what Mark said there in general?
Yeah, no, I think a lot of Mark's points were spot on. I think that's football, isn't it? You know what I mean? One moment everyone's happy and everything's fine, and the players are in fantastic moods, and then say a week later, everything can seem to change on the front, really. But yeah, I think you look at yesterday in all. I think anyone that was at the game or watched the game, it was a bad day for everyone. Kind of yesterday, and in terms of, I just felt we was flat. I felt like it was flat from the start. I'm not sure what everyone else's opinion was, but it felt flat from the start. And sometimes you can have them, and then that's the thing. What I've said a few times on the show about the difference in going into this year with that Thursday, Sunday. It can make a difference, and then Sunday games have that effect where it can feel a little bit flat, and you have to try and kind of generate that from somewhere, and that might be a tackle, that might be kind of starting off on the front foot, but sometimes it does it does happen. But I felt like sometimes when it's not going right, and like Mark's point there, potentially, I think if you now have that luxury of the players that we have on the bench, where they are in their fitness, we're not quite sure. But I think when a game's flat like that, some of our better players are a little bit off it, which can sometimes happen. I think when you potentially don't make them substitutions, or you wait too long, and then the outcome becomes that yesterday, I think it's just a reality of what it is, that things are going to be questioned. And again, with that, I just feel I think Morgan probably for his high standards, I think again from the start it just wasn't quite with him yesterday. And again, that happens sometimes, but I think that's where potentially now we have to have that luxury of going, it's not quite his day, but we've got the options on the bench to go and change it. And I think that's absolutely fine. But I think if you don't do it, and then you kind of keep that same player out there and the outcome doesn't change, I think then that's where the kind of conversation becomes of what's the point having them options on the bench.
You used the word entitled, Pete, at half time. You're talking about our players. I mean, I don't know, elaborate on that, and then I'll ask Lewis about it. Why did you feel that?
Well, I don't know if I could elaborate on it necessarily. It's just that it's the word that sort of came to mind when you asked me to speak at halftime about what it felt like we were seeing. To me, it just looked like a team of players who, like the sort of intensity had really dropped off when you compare it to that Brentford performance. And I think the reason why I felt that it was so odd was because it was against another team that looked really poor and in a really bad moment. And there's a sort of part of, some striking similarities to the Brentford game in that it was, for example, it's a midfield lacking any athleticism. And I'm not sure if I can't remember I said that in the comment or whatever, but that was exactly the same as the Brentford situation. So it felt really odd for me to see Morgan Gibbs-White not taking that game by the scruff of the neck. It wasn't against a team where, a Newcastle midfield where you expect them to be given no time and for them to be all over you, and you've really got to be on it. But it just felt really flat. I think Lewis is totally right, and I think it's worth saying, as someone who was there as well, it was flat in the ground as well as on the pitch. I presume people would agree with that. It felt really quiet to me, and it felt hard to get going, and that's on me as much as it is on anybody else. But yeah, there was I think the manner of the performance in that first half, there was an awful lot of quite half-assed looking stuff, and perhaps it isn't that. Maybe it's just confidence, or maybe it's just errors, and they start totting up, and then you start creating a narrative around them. I don't know. But there were so many moments where the passes were really loose or just didn't find anyone whatsoever, where one of our players sort of went for a little flick or trick rather than just something a little bit more obvious. And it felt like a team that were sort of sauntering after being a couple of goals up, rather than one that was desperate to try and make an impact in a game where it felt like, it felt to me like a lot rested on it. And I think that's why I'm a bit down about the whole thing, is because obviously there's loads going on around the club right now. And it felt like a game where it was a real moment to grab it by the scruff of the neck, try and get something early. If you can, just shut them out then, because I don't think they'll be able to handle it. And then you end go into the international break with in a really good position. You sort of quieten down the noise a little bit. It gives everyone a chance to just do things with a little bit more clarity and speak quietly and stuff without it being just constant chatter. Maybe none of that stuff matters. Maybe none of it affects what's actually going to happen off the pitch. But to me, it felt a bit gutting in that. And yeah, the first half, I don't know whether entitled is the right word or not, and I don't mean it in a sort of malicious way, because I've got an awful lot of love and respect for the team, but it just didn't seem like them to me. It seemed very half-assed, very flaky, real lack of intensity and intent about the way we did anything. So that's how it felt to me at half-time. I mean, can I just quickly comment on the stuff that Mark and Lewis are talking about? I mean, Mark makes really the points he makes are ones that you want to buy into, right? And I get that's the whole speculation thing that he says. That is how it is. I think we all love that because it gives us a story to explain something, and it may be true, it may be partly true, it may be total bollocks, frankly. But that's nothing against Mark, but that's just the case, isn't it? Like, we all love to be able to say, well, this explains what we saw on the pitch, but it may just be that everyone had a crap day, or it may just be that there was other stuff going on, or whatever. Who knows? But it's better to have an explanation if you're a person, isn't it? Because it makes you feel that there's something more than just chaos. I don't know whether maybe it is just chaos. I think there was stuff that I would like to criticise about it, but I always feel that it's really easy for us. I don't know if Lewis was maybe making this point, or maybe I'm speaking for him, but it's always very easy in hindsight to criticise the substitutions and stuff. And look, Gibbs-White, for example, having a horror of a game, really, wasn't he? Like, no effect whatsoever. So I was thinking, look, you pop McAtee in there and give someone else a chance. But I also understand why you might consider the idea of keeping Gibbs-White on as a good thing, because you know what he can do in a moment, and he might not have looked like doing it, but it's sort of a reasonable enough assumption to think that maybe that's what the manager thought. And I think you can explain away most of the subs in a sense. I thought maybe, personally, I'd have brought Callum Wendo on if you were going to have two sort of number 10 type players on the pitch, because you've then got someone looking to go in behind and slip onto those balls or whatever. But I'm sure there were other reasons for it. In the Luiz one, I don't get the criticism at all. Like, if any of you have got a sense of his fitness right now and are sure that he should have been starting the game or coming on, then you've obviously got access to some great knowledge. But he's played no football.
But Pete, I would argue that a half-fit Douglas Luiz could run more than Sangare could in the last 10 minutes of that game. Sangare was completely shot. Unless there's a risk of injury, then yeah, I agree with you. But he was on the bench, so if he's on the bench, he's got to be usable, isn't he? Otherwise, why is he on the bench? 2 games in a row he's been on the bench, and we haven't seen him for a minute yet. So don't name him on the bench if he's not ready. He doesn't have to. He's got a squad big enough where he doesn't have to name him on the bench. So why name him on the bench and not use him in a game where your defensive midfielder looks like he's really struggling to cope? As soon as Somerville came on, they got pace around him. It was desperate. And lo and behold, he got exposed to the frailty that we've known and seen before. Lewis has said it. He hasn't got the mobility to engage with players. And that tackle on the penalty, it was like, so slow, so clumsy. And he shouldn't have been on the pitch to make that challenge. I just don't understand why he was exposed like he was at that stage in the game. And we've got a player who presumably is fit enough to be on the bench, therefore fit enough to play 10 minutes, surely.
I think you're bang right about Sangare. Just on the Luiz stuff, I think it's too much to assume knowledge of what's in someone else's head, and I think it's not unreasonable to assume that there were good thought processes rather than just some speculation or superstition, or that there's issues off the pitch are forcing it. I just don't know. We don't know. That's all. But I think you're absolutely right about Sangare, and I would have personally had him off at that point. Anyway, I'll shut up because I'm being told in the chat I'm talking too much.
I'll throw it to Lewis, and then I'll go back to Mikey. I mean, the sub for me was Sangare off, and then you could drop Morgan deeper to try and get more out of him. But there were other options. I feel like I'm asking Lewis to defend footballers when they play crap by asking why they play crap. And start a game like that. So, Lewis, any reason why we were it felt like a pre-season friendly first half, which I found a bit annoying. Why that? And also just weighing on the midfield. And I'm going to disappear because what I thought was an iPhone charger was a Samsung charger. So I need to get that, and then I'll come back and hopefully you're not all shouting at each other. Or maybe you are. That's fine. Go for it.
No. I think the key thing is there's a lot of things that happened yesterday. I think what we've got to take into context of the game is that West Ham arrived in a position that there was under threat. I think if they lost that game, the manager lost that game, I think he's under real pressure. I think you have to understand that they're a Premier League team with Premier League players, and I think that their first aspect was not to lose the game too early. And you could see in the first half that they was very rigid, didn't really come out the blocks, didn't really look like they wanted to score, but what they wanted to do, didn't want to do is lose the game early on. And I felt that I spoke to a lot of people prior to the game in terms of what the score could be, what it is. I think if we came out on the front foot and got an early goal, I think it would have been potentially a 3 or 4. I think they would have folded with their confidence at that point in time. What happens is, as we all know, as that game continues to stay 0-0, they continue to get more and more confidence. Our game wasn't at our levels. We had a lot of players kind of giving the ball away, a lot of stop-start. So they gaining more and more and more confidence. And then it goes to the point where they're thinking, right, let's kind of open it up a little bit. Let's try and nick something here. And that, so you also sometimes have to give, listen, we was nowhere near our levels, but I felt that when West Ham scored the first goal, I felt like they knew there was an opportunity to go and really kind of kill the game. And I think they did that. And then sometimes you just got to hold your hands up. You're playing in the Premier League. You're playing against good teams and good players. So I look at it from that aspect of their tactic was, okay, we're not going to go out there and try and win straight away, but what we're not going to do is be at halftime out of sight and the game's done. So they did that, and their plan, what you seem to look like, worked. I thought Callum Wilson came on and I thought he had a real effect. I thought when he came on, in terms of the role that he played, I thought he lifted the team. I thought it was a good outlet for them. And he kind of changed the narrative of what they wanted to do and get out of the game. I think from our aspect, I think sometimes, as Matt's question, you can go into a game, you can have all you want to do so well. No one goes out to make mistakes, and sometimes you're just not quite at it. We're talking about Morgan's game. When was the last time anyone say a game potentially where he potentially gave the ball away that many times or was a little bit off it? Very, very few. So that sometimes that happens. That happens in any kind of football at any level. Sometimes we go out there and it's just not quite there. It's just not quite ticking. And sometimes on the other foot, you go out there and you do stuff and they just all start coming off and you feel that confidence and you grow and grow. So it can work both ways. But I think from that aspect, what we have to look at is the transition of the club, the transition of the squad, and also the manager. Last year, we had a strong core of what we just say is maybe 13, 14 players, where it was the same kind of start 11. And we all as a fan base probably knew what the subs were going to be and the timings where he was. That is different now. But also the manager's got to get used to that in terms of turning around, have these different options and what time can they come in. And also you have to look and think, this team and this squad and the players that he's had, especially that starting 11, look what they've done for him. Look at the stuff that they've achieved for him. So in terms of giving them the opportunity, and you could probably see that, you look at it and you think, right, okay, could we change it? But he's going to give them that last opportunity to go and do something because they have that connection, they have that relationship. But now moving forward in terms of making these signings and where we are, that's something that the manager and his staff have got to get used to and look at and think, right, how can we best effective use this squad now? Because we now have a squad where most games we've got 3 or 4 great options. And listen, he's going to play about with it. International break will also be good in terms of getting on a training ground and really have a look at these players. And then we'll see what we are on the other side. But that's the way I look at it. In terms of one of the changes, the McAtee, when we was on here, when we were discussing potential signing McAtee, I think he's a really good player. I think he's a player that potentially, again, coming away from Man City, is a little bit coming away from that club where you're going to be constantly most of possession on top. How does he kind of deal with that? But the biggest question was, where does he play? Now, for me, our formation and our tactic, we play without and out wingers. We play without and out wingers, kind of very fast, very effective. Well, if he's going to play off the side, he's not that. That's not his characteristics. Is he going to play ahead of Morgan? Most get no. Is he going to play ahead of Anderson? No. Well, like I said before, you're not going to play a midfield 3 of Morgan, Anderson, and McAtee. So my look at it is where would he play? And I felt that if you've got Amari Hutchinson on the bench, who's your out and out winger, if you're going to make that swap and make that choice, I potentially would like to have seen him than a McAtee off a side. That's my personal opinion. Now, if you're going to bring McAtee on, maybe take off Morgan and put him in a position that I think he's going to be more suited long term in his team. But I'm just not sure in terms of if you've got pace and we've got Ndoye, who personally I thought first half, if he was going to get something and the liveliest player I thought he was in that first half. But if you're going to take that pace off and that directness, I think you've got to try and go a bit like for like if you want, but not. But when McAtee came on, I felt that we lost that right-hand side a little bit. And potentially, I would look to do your out-and-out winger if that's an option.
1,000 people with us, which is lovely. Appreciate you joining us. Do hit like if you haven't already. Greg, is this a fleeting visit? Are you hanging around or not?
It's up to you.
Well,
no, you're struggling, but there's more in here than a Derby away end these days.
I know. No, what happened was,
Did you hear me then?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
That's weird.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, people logged on at the wrong time is what's effectively happened, but that's fine. Are you hanging around then, Greg?
If you want me to.
Yes,
see how much you want me.
That was a weird. I don't know what to say to that.
Tell me what's happened, because I don't know. I've been at work and not had a chance to look.
Well, we've just signed, as mentioned, the young lad Donald McNeely, who signed a 3-year deal and gone out on loan to Wickham.
Did you see, Matt, that he's in the same agency as Hutchinson and Lewis, by the way?
Well, no.
Who runs that one?
It depends how much we're paying him, doesn't it? I mean, I don't know. But he sounds like a talent. I'm not going to go nuts about it. Mike, have you weighed in yet while I was gone or not?
No, not yet.
Right, we'll go to Mikey, then Greg will get his chance.
Where had you gone?
You just not get a charger, didn't I?
I think the lads have made great points and a lot of what I agree with. I think just to maybe add something slightly different, I think my disappointment from yesterday, obviously the result, of course, but it was the way the levels of performance affected the whole team. It was like a drip feed through them. So let me kind of try and explain. So the levels that we hit against Brentford were really high. I mean, you wouldn't have rated a player less than 8, 9 out of 10. They were all on it. The confidence was flowing through. You know, everybody was raising their game, and we blew them away. We destroyed them. It just felt like the complete flip and complete opposite of what we saw for West Ham yesterday. So usually, whatever you're doing in life, whatever, you have a baseline level of performance, right? Which is what you're probably going to see from most football teams week in, week out. And Lewis, please tell me if I'm wrong. Which is like a 6 out of 7. You'll get 1 or 2, 8 and 9. They might win you the game. 1 or 2 might struggle. They might get taken off and subbed. What really disappointed me is none of them even hit the baseline level other than Sells. Like, if it weren't for Sells, we would have lost that game 5 or 6-0. So you can say Williams was okay, Callum was all right for times, but that baseline level I'm looking at now is more attuned to what I know and what I've seen we are capable of in recent weeks. So the baseline level for me now isn't a 4 or a 5 or a 6, it's a 7. And they got nowhere near it. And what kind of really got me is when people started giving the ball away, I didn't really see much on. I didn't see them shouting at each other. You know, even Milenkovic was quiet. I didn't see him trying to G each other up. And then you're looking, well, okay, who's the one person that can really affect this? Who's the one person? So you look over to the manager and you think, okay, what are you going to do? Because we've been rubbish for 60 minutes. We're playing a team that is devoid of confidence. They can't string 2 passes together. They've barely left the half for 60 minutes. You've got serious options on that bench now. Do something different. And all that happened was like-for-like changes, a winger for a winger, Jesus up top, I'm not too sure about. And it wasn't until we went 2-0 down when he tried to maybe do something slightly different. So it was like they were all missing a trick, and it kind of drip-fed through the team from the manager downwards to all the players. An off day, it was more than an off day. Like those levels were just, you're not going to win a game of football, whether you're leading a team from the dugout or whether you're playing a game of football in whatever position. You cannot start a game that passively and just expect to win it. Now, Pete used the word entitlement. I'm struggling to think of a better word, but it felt like a pre-season friendly for those first 45 minutes. And you're thinking, look at this West Ham team. You know, they've got no legs. They're pinned inside their own half. let's go for the kill. Let's smell it. Let's sniff the blood. Let's go for it. And Nuno, come on, you've got options on that bench. Let's try and win this football game. And we did nothing. And one more thing I will say as well, the only way, really, other than us switching off or sleeping, the only way they were going to win that game, I thought, is maybe from a set piece. And I watched the first 4 corners. And if anybody's got this game on repeat, watching exactly the same corner from James Ward-Prowse, I think Souček wins every single header. So we didn't win. And you're thinking, this is basics. When it's a matter of time. So we're not clicking up front. We're not clicking in midfield. The manager's doing nothing to change it. And we're not even winning the corners, which is their only or main way of scoring. So the more the game went on and on and on, it almost felt like an inevitability. And I've not felt that way for a long time. So in summary, it was really disappointing. I don't think anybody other than themselves can really go off that pitch and think, we've really given it our best, or certainly performed to the levels which we're capable at. And they've just got to hit their baseline performance levels, because it was nowhere near. And it was really frustrating because they're better than that. They really are better than that. So I'm not going to kick them too much, even though I've just kicked them for 5 minutes. But all we need to do now on the training ground is just remember what we're good at: winning headers from corners, playing with pace. Lewis talked about 2 fast wingers. We've got 4 of them now. We might even have 5. Let's feed them. Morgan, stop doing your flicks and tricks. Just pass the ball. West Ham were there for the taking, and that's what makes it even more disappointing, because they were awful. I don't think you'll see a worse legless team down there all season, and we missed a trick. And if we perform at any of those levels against Arsenal, we'll get absolutely hammered. So I just think we just need to not panic, take stock, realise it for what it was, and everybody needs to raise their game. And I'm looking at the manager to start with that, and that's me done for that.
I thought Paqueta and Fernandes were good in midfield. They were better than us in that area, and that didn't help us at all. Right, Greg, go on. How are you feeling about it all? You can weigh in on anything you want.
I'm exhausted after that. I think that's excellent, Mikey. It was just frustrating. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I was frustrated when I saw the starting 11. I just thought, we've been given this incredible squad, and we're not ready to use them yet. Maybe it's fitness. Maybe it's just not performing in the training ground yet, or maybe it's just he trusts what he trusts. But I was disappointed from when I saw that. I thought, oh no. And then Gibbs-White clearly had an off day, and you think, right, get that change done, and we didn't change quick enough. So there's a lot to learn from a lot of people, and it starts at the coach. I mean, Nuno's done incredible for this football club, and hopefully he'll continue to do so. But I think we got it wrong yesterday, and we got it wrong from the side at the beginning for me.
Let's talk about the manager then, because lots of people want him to go. I mean, I'll go first. I think, from a football sense, I think that's really premature. We did finish 7th last season. We're 3 games into this season. We finished last season badly, but I think there were reasons that have been addressed in the transfer market, and now he's got a squad to work with. But I find it difficult to go from us playing really well against Brentford. I thought we were decent against Palace, who wiped the floor with Villa. I don't think anyone was saying Nuno was 1 game from the sack going into this game, and now lots of people are saying they want him gone. If it's football reasons, then I think that's premature. If it's because he's spouted off in the press and people think there's no way back for him, I think that's a different conversation. But for me, I don't think. I think we stick with him for now, for at least the next 3 games. So I'll go around the room with the regular fan lads, because it's more of a fan question than anything. Mark, what about you?
Well, it depends. If he, I mean, I would have been 2 weeks ago. I'd have been, we've got to hold on to Nuno. He's got to be the future of the club. But then the statements he made in the press, I agreed with a lot of what he said. I just didn't agree with the timing. Like I was saying all summer that we should have done more in the market. But to say what he said when he said it, which was basically on the eve of when we were doing those deals and getting players in, it just seemed like it made me think, why is he doing that now when we're just about to start the Premier League season? And it was between games, and it just felt like a very strangely timed set of statements to make, and out of character for Nuno as well. So that made me question, what's going on there? What was behind that? Who was advising him? What was his objective there? And then, like I said, like if anything was going to lead to speculation about his judgment being affected by, what's happened, the events of yesterday did that. because Mikey made great points. I could see after an hour we weren't creating anything, we weren't doing enough. So why didn't Nuno see it? Either he didn't see it, either those players on the bench aren't ready. But I would argue that Hutchinson came on at Palace, Calamando came on at Palace. The only one we haven't seen is Douglas Luiz. He chose to leave it late to make those changes. It set up. It creates this speculation that he is being affected by what's happened and the pressure that he's created. And if his judgment is being affected, and if it's getting through to the players, that's untenable. He's got to go, hasn't he? Because you can't go on with a manager whose decision making is affected by what's going on in the backroom team and the pressure that he's put on himself, or the pressure that's been put on him by the backroom team. And if it's getting to the players, then it's untenable. So, yeah, my view on this has changed a lot in the last 2 or 3 weeks since he's made those statements, and that performance yesterday did nothing but fuel that.
We'll just do it in order then. Pete?
I think I pretty much agree with everything that you said, Matt. I mean, if we were able to somehow extricate the footballing reasons away from everything else, then I think it would be obvious. I think the track record speaks for itself. The fact that we had one very good performance and one okay one in 3 games, and one absolute nightmare yesterday, there's no grounds for sacking the manager from those footballing reasons. But the truth is, you can't extricate the other stuff, and clearly there's a lot going on. I think the thing I find awkward is that everyone commenting, and I include all of us in that, doesn't know the whole story here. I think things will come out over time, and lots of whispers or whatever about exactly what is going on behind the scenes and all that sort of stuff. But as things stand, we don't know. What I can't get my head around really, and I think Mark's totally right about it, is that Nuno is a sort of reliable character in the press normally. You know exactly what you're going to get from him. And he's a bright man, he's a bright, thoughtful bloke, and he knows exactly what's going to happen, the impact of what he's done. I think what's yet to come is we might find more about the timeline of perhaps the reasons why he did it. But regardless of that, him speaking out in the way that he did has 2 outcomes as far as I can see it. One is that it leads to a successful power play where he gets an opportunity to sort of redraw the boundaries of whatever everyone is doing at the club. And perhaps it means that there's a bit of less influence in one area or another, or that sort of thing. And the other one is that he gets sacked. And I think he probably made those comments being comfortable with that decision. And that suggests to me that there's enough going on behind the scenes for him to feel, it's a drastic moment. But regardless of that, it's all speculation. So who knows? So look, as things stand, it feels totally untenable to me. I don't see how he comes back from it in the long term, because I don't think Marinakis will have someone saying those sorts of things without ultimately having that grudge there, and sort of reasonably so really, because everyone has to be on the same page, don't they? I hope that there's a way of sorting it out, and I hope that can be done fully and properly, and we can all move on united. But I'm not feeling remotely confident that that's realistic, given that everything that's happened. And I think it's probably a matter of time. And then the next question is who next? And I don't feel like there's many great answers to that right now either. But look, I'll be sad, but I don't see what the other outcome is really, given what's been played out publicly, and when you consider all the intentions behind it and what it shows about the people involved. It feels like a fracture that's not going to be healed anytime soon to me.
Yeah, the issue going into this game was, if they have a bad result after what he said, he's talked himself to a cliff edge, and he's got naff all ground behind him. And how many more defeats do you give him? From a football point of view, like I said, you'd give him at least the next 3 games. But if we don't beat Burnley and Sunderland, then the outcome feels pretty obvious. But if we do beat Burnley and Sunderland, then no one's going to be saying sack him, are they? So that makes it a difficult situation. But it feels pretty rough with communications wise, and the situation off the field. It is the big issue for me. What about you, Mikey?
Yeah, I kind of agree with you both. If nothing would have come out at all, and you wouldn't have had these remarkable press conferences and statements coming out here, there, and everywhere, and you just go off football alone, then it's a mad conversation. Because even as crap as we were on Sunday, this manager's done wonders with that team. and he's got a lot of credit in the bank, and he deserves the chance to turn around what was a ridiculously poor performance yesterday. Unfortunately, I'll give you a bit of an example. So it's not football, but in people's careers, sometimes your nose gets pushed out of joint, right? I mean, I've had it myself with previous jobs where levels of management have been brought in above me, and I haven't liked it. I've been a little bit immature, perhaps, in previous roles. And in both occasions, it's led to me leaving that company pretty soon. So if there's anything similar to what's going off behind Forest, and we don't know, as Pete says, we just don't know. But, they talk about no smoke without fire. I think Nuno said that himself. You join the dots. It probably takes a bit of guessing around what's gone off, or should I say what's changed since last season. And it's going to go one way or the other. So I don't think the conversations is around the performance as bad as it was, or where we are on the table, or anything like that. I just think there's obviously things going off behind the scenes. People aren't as happy as they were for whatever reason, levels of management, whatever. And I just think once that goes public, I mean, give me an example of where somebody's ever come back from that. I'm hoping so, because Nuno deserves a chance to turn it around and show what he can do with these new signings. But if you're asking me now, if you give me a $5, because I won't bet more than that, to put on it, I don't think he'll be here for Arsenal. I genuinely don't. And I think that's really, really sad. I genuinely do, because I wanted to see him lead us into Europe and see what he can do with these new players. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope he stays, and I hope they shake hands and sort it out and do whatever needs to happen to be behind the scenes to allow him to focus on football. And as Mark said in his first answer, anything that's dripped down through to the players, uncertainty, whatever it is, that then gets removed because of those conversations. I'm hoping it goes that way and he stays. But my gut feel is that he won't, and I think that's really sad.
Well, Forest aren't a normal football club, so none of us really know. It's all one man's decision at the end of the day, really. There's some talk. I'll throw it to Greg in one sec. There's some talk about Glasner. People are speculating that he's gonna walk. Looks like there's a meeting between him and Gahey, and if Gahey goes, then I think Glasner will be pretty fed up. And interesting, he might walk the plank and just go. I don't know. We'll keep an eye on that, certainly. What about you, Greg, on where we're at with the manager?
I'm a bit similar to Mark, to be honest, in the fact that my opinions changed since he came out and said what he did. And I know we only see what's on the outside, but then that's all we can judge it on. And we've judged things on a pretty successful transfer window so far. I don't think anyone would doubt that that's probably the strongest bench we've ever had yesterday. And that's down to the club. That's down to the people behind the scenes doing what they've done and doing their jobs. Now, managers like Nuno, they're head coaches now, aren't they? And I think there's a lot of head coaches that struggle to not be in charge of everything. That's just the nature of why they're so good at what they do. And bringing in the likes of Edu and things like that, it's obviously upset him a little bit, which you can understand, but you also have to be able to live with that. And if the performances aren't there, it's going to be a lot quicker people turning on him and his style of play and his choices. And I think we saw that yesterday. I mean, it's a bit dramatic at the minute to say you want him gone. I think that'd be a little bit silly, but we've got to see how this week goes. And he's got 2 weeks now with all these new players. And if they're not managing to get into his team, then it's going to be on him when things go wrong, unfortunately.
I can't. I'll say that in a bit. What about Nuno's tactics, Lewis? You might have touched on this while I wasn't here. People saying he's too tactically inflexible. Do you think he needs to work with this squad to play better football, or have we seen that we're trying to do that in the first few games?
No, listen. I think again, like I said before, I think he's got to now get to work with this new look squad, with these players that have come into the building. He's got to understand them. They've got to understand what he expects from his team, what he wants from certain positions, and that will, that will come in due course. So, after a result and after a bad performance, you're always going to kind of ask questions of, in kind of, was this right? Was that right? Was that the right choice of players? Was that the right choice of formation? But again, he's, for time and time again, throughout this kind of period where we've really, really achieved a lot, here. He's made some fantastic decisions, fantastic kind of subs at the right times, which has won us points and won us games. So listen, it swings roundabouts. But when you have a performance and a result like that, of course, questions will be asked, and he knows that, and that's just a reality of football, really. But like I said, I think the important thing now is again, even though it kind of drags on and there's no game to get over it, I think it's important for him and the new players now to get to work and on the training ground and create them kind of conversations, create them relationships, and make them really feel important, a part of the squad. And how come back on the other side in the next break and really kind of to kind of be ready to go and go and perform like we have done for large parts of his tenure. And again, it's just the important thing to making sure that these new players get up to speed and know exactly what he wants from them. And I'm sure once he believes that and trusts that, they'll be put into the team.
As Ian says, hang on, Pete. As Ian says, like, subscribe, trust the process. Mark's got to go in 5 minutes, so we'll give him one other word. But go on, Pete.
Just really quickly, I think one of the first things that football fans will say when something's not going right is that the manager's like tactically naive, or is the phrase that normally is used. I think this is like outrageously unfair if you look at what Nuno's done in his time here. So towards the start of last season, he switches up to play the 4-2-2-2 against Liverpool away. We pack the midfield with 4 centre mids, high athleticism, working really hard, blocking the middle of the pitch to get an advantage in a different way. I mean, the massive win against Brighton at home, we play 5-3-2, Elanga's playing through the middle, and it's destructive. Obviously, he's normally playing the 4-2-3-1. Sometimes played that asymmetrically with a Dominguez or someone else in one of those wide positions. He regularly played 5 at the back in a different way to shore it up and see games out. It's pretty clear that he's also now trying to evolve the way we play in terms of the actual style. And we've had 3 examples of it so far this season, and one of them was like a barnstorming victory in which we dominated. Obviously, it's not all brilliant. I've made my point about how grim yesterday was. But I think to make any argument that he's tactically inflexible or has no tactical nuance or idea or whatever is mental if you have a look at what he's actually done at the football club. Nuno's argument, clearly, as he says, is that he hasn't had the time with the players. You know, he needs a pre-season. Lots of managers will say the same thing. So I'm sure he would say, give it time and that will come. But like we've all said, I don't think this is going to come down to the on-field stuff anyway.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much sympathy I have with that. When yes, that would be ideal, but lots of clubs do late business, and lots of clubs seem to have issues. We're not the only ones. Maybe we'll talk about a few others. Mark, you've got to go in 4 minutes or so. I'm hoping Mikey can stay for another 10. Weigh in on whatever you want around the manager and what Pete said, Mark, but also just on potential other names. I see others that I would like. There's see others I certainly don't like. Weigh in on that if you want as well.
Yeah, I mean, just on Pete's point, I mean, Nuno's a vastly experienced football manager, and I agree that we shouldn't assume that he's tactically naive. I don't believe that for 1 minute. What I do believe, though, he has a preferred way of playing, and that isn't possession-based, flair-driven football. It is defensive solidity, counter-attacking, which is what brought us so much success last season. You've got to think that, is he being forced out of his comfort zone somewhat by the players that we brought in? Lewis talked about McAtee. Where does he fit in the team? I don't see it either, unless he is there just to rotate Morgan, because I don't see how he gets in that team in the counter-attacking style that Nuno set up to play, because we want fast wingers, and we want defensive solidity, and Anderson and Gibbs-White are just settled in that team. So I don't know where McAtee fits in. So I just wonder whether, he wants to play this possession-based football, whether that is coming from elsewhere, we don't know. But what I do know is that first half, we played possession-based football against an organised team, and we couldn't break them down. We couldn't even have a shot on goal. And yes, Brentford was an outstanding performance, but Brentford are a bottom 6 side, maybe even bottom 3. I've tipped them to go down. I think every pundit on Sky Sports tipped them to go down. So we shouldn't take too much from that Brentford performance. When that 45 minutes against West Ham, another poor team, we couldn't generate any chances whatsoever. So I don't feel that this possession-based style that Nuno is imposing or putting across didn't work in pre-season. And yes, it doesn't matter, but results don't matter, but performances do to some extent. It didn't look like it was clicking then, and it didn't look like it was clicking against West Ham. We were much more successful playing the way that I think he's played for years and years and years with his teams, which is defensive solidity, counter-attacking football. Why are we moving away from that? I don't know. Nobody really knows what's behind that. Yes, we've got to have more strings to our bow, but is it plan A? It seemed to be plan A against West Ham, and I don't know whether it should be. And I wonder whether the players that we brought in fit into Nuno's system, and I wonder if that's the problem. Again, it's such speculation, but something is wrong with the way we performed in that first half, but it wasn't enough to convince him to change it in the second half. And it played into West Ham's hands because they had Somerville who could only come on for the last 20 minutes, and Callum Wilson, who normally only comes on for the last 20 minutes. And it was 0-0. Those two came on. They had their 20 minutes. They performed very well, and they won the game for them. We should have had the game won by then, and we didn't do enough to win it at that point, and we gave them, it played into their hands. So I don't know. Everything I saw just fed the speculation that something is amiss. And like Mikey says, I just don't see him being in charge for the Arsenal game. As for replacements, Marco Silva, we know, is someone that Marinakis knows very well and probably will be talking to, I imagine, because I don't think he's particularly happy at Fulham. Yes, they've signed players today, but I still think that he could be prized away from there. Glasner, of course, would be someone that we've looked at previously, if we're led to believe that he was in the running previously. If he does walk away from Palace, he would be a leading contender. Though either of those two I would love, because, yes, they're great managers. But first and foremost, I don't want to lose Nuno, but I fear that the Nuno we've got now has been badly affected by what's gone on, and he's not the manager that took us to 7th last season anymore. And that's the really disappointing thing, and that is why if he does leave in the next week or so, we'll be sad about it.
Talking of leaving, I think you've got to disappear, haven't you?
Yeah, I should go.
Yeah.
There's enough of you anyway to cover it, so it's all fine.
Cool. Right. We shall let Mark go. Thanks very much to him. Thanks very much to Gary for the £2. Appreciate that. Thank you very much to Ian Palin for the £5. Give Nuno another 5 or 6 games with the new players, then judge him. Ian says, Mikey, are you all right for a couple more minutes?
Yeah, it's fine. No problem. Yeah.
What was I going to say? Oh, you wanted to read something out. You wanted to read some good news out, didn't you?
Yeah, I'll lighten the tone.
Do I need to boot you out, Mark? Are you hanging around? Or?
No, it's all right. I'm waiting to hear that dinner's ready. Then I'm going to run in. So I'm
watching brief. Okay. Yeah. Chris Aylmer's waiting to step off the bench, so we're all good.
I'll read some good news out just to cheer everybody up. So, if people remember, the game was stopped. Was it second half when we had a medical emergency in the Clough stand just to the side of me? Just seen a post on Facebook that Lindsay's just sent me. I'll just read it out word for word. It's only small. It says, "Hi to my Forest family. I'm Barry, the person in T Block. Brian Clough-Lower, who was taken ill." This bit's lovely. "I cannot thank you all enough for basically saving my life. Everybody was brilliant. Unfortunately, I can't remember anything, but my wife and friends around have said how you all, right down to the pitch level, helped me and got a paramedic and doctor to me." And then he puts, "I'm awaiting Peterborough Hospital and Heart Hospital to look after me, because that's where I live." I think he means Papua. And I live close to home. It wasn't a heart attack, but heart related. Last bit, "The club have contacted me today as the staff and players wanted to know if I was okay," which was lovely. And then he's put, "Hopefully see you all again. Thank you all, Barry." And that's just lovely, isn't it? So hopefully that's raised the tone a little bit, because I always get a bit scared when you get those medical emergencies, but this guy's all right. So that's a good piece of news.
Anything you want to add before you have to go, Mikey?
Just to try and give everyone a slightly different perspective on it. It's interesting, isn't it? So I try and see the bigger picture with some of this stuff. So it's easy to go, 4 years ago we were bottom of the championship, all that sort of stuff, but we were, and now we're talking about things which just wouldn't have been on our radar even a few months ago. So I agree with the guys that the pressing matters at Forest at the moment is putting that game to bed, dissecting it like we have done, understanding where it went wrong, and it wasn't just one performance or one person, it was just a catalogue of things that just didn't quite hit the mark. So understanding that, dusting yourselves down, getting back on that training pitch and putting in a better performance against the team that's probably going to win the league. in a couple of weeks' time. So no easy effort there. But I think the big thing, the elephant in the room, although it's not much of an elephant, is it? Is the Nuno situation, and I just think we just need a bit of clarity on that. So they either sort it out and get on with it, and remember what we're good at as a whole club and a whole community. Like that little piece that I've just wrote out, that's what we're about. This is Forest. You know, we're about looking to each other, and we're about triumph through adversity. Okay, and we've got a bit of adversity now. So they either align, kick on, go and put in a performance against Arsenal, or they shake hands and say, Nuno, great work, thank you, really appreciate it. It's time to take the next step of our evolution. So either way, uncertainty is a killer, literally. Just get rid of it either way. So sort it out over this international break, and let's get back on. It's back on the horse, as they call it, and let's go and beat Sunderland, beat Burnley, and try and put in a decent performance against Arsenal.
Lewis, a lot of people saying about our bad form extending back into last season, into April. I've seen this 3 wins in 18 or whatever it is. I think that if that includes pre-season, that's mental. But we haven't played particularly well for a while. From a player's point of view, do you hit a reset at the end of a season, or do you and everything starts afresh because you've got different players, you've had a pre-season and everything like that, or is it fair to say we've been rubbish for a while? How would you view that position people are saying?
No, you always want to try and finish the season well. You always want to try and finish the season with a bit of momentum to go into the summer. And then, but again, once you come back first day of pre-season, the squad can sometimes look different. And it's a new start. It's a new start for potentially people that have been at the club on loan, or new people that are coming into the club. There'll be people that are leaving the club. So once that pre-season starts, it's kind of a clean slate for everybody, really. So it's really key as in that dressing room. You always want to start the season off well. You're always looking forward to that first game. You're trying to get through pre-season unscathed. You're trying to get fit, but also injury free. And you're trying to game by game in pre-season just create the stuff that the manager and the coaching staff are trying to implement it into the squad, and you're trying to learn and trying to get better by the game. And hopefully, once you get to the first game of the season, you're in a little bit better shape. But it's still going to take time, and it's a work in progress. And I think, again, you look at the Brentford game, we took care of that. Great 3 points, and we go to Crystal Palace, and it could have gone either way, but there was some good moments in there. And you get a good result yesterday, and you're sitting there with 7 points, and you're thinking to yourself, do you know what I mean? Great start going into the international break. Let's see what it is on the other side with all the new signings that's come. Unfortunately, the result and the performance wasn't there, but it still doesn't take away the bigger aim. And the bigger aim is making sure that these new signings that are coming into the building, along with the players already, continuing to work, continuing to get better, continue to build relationship, because it's going to be a long season with a lot of football. So again, it's now the important thing is having a little bit of a rest, getting back to work, and ready to put kind of the wrongs that happened on Sunday.
Let me add in Chris Aylmer, who's going to have to unmute himself and start listening. Hello, Chris Aylmer.
Yeah, no, I was listening to Lewis. I always listen to Lewis. I'm trying to catch up. Like, who's the manager? Who are the signings? Who's gone out? It's just gone. I've just come back from work and it's gone a bit mad. Sorry, Lewis. I was definitely listening to you. I've just come back from work here, and it's obviously deadline day, and of course Forest have a flurry of signings, it seems, coming in, left backs, Traores and Bakwas and all sorts. So it's any news?
Well, we've signed another academy player. We signed 2 players to the academy. A second one called Matthew Orr from Linfield on a 3-year contract. So that Northern Irish connection, and it looks like we're going to sign Bakwa, hopefully. I don't know. We'll wait. We're into the final 50 minutes, but obviously it'll drag on, I'm sure. Greg, do you think is everything a bit high-end? Because as Lewis says, we've got 4 points and we're 10th. If we won this game, we're on 7 points and we're second. Is it that early season thing that there's huge swings on these results, or is that too much of an excuse for the level of performance?
Yeah, because I don't think none of us know where we are so far, but we could have easily beat Palace if we'd have not been on a 6 out of 10, and we should have beat West Ham. They didn't show a lot at all until we decided to gift them the game. So yeah, I do think there's opportunities missed, especially with Arsenal coming up, and we traditionally don't do very well there at all. So I think it's going to be a tough few weeks either way, and we need to find some form quick, especially when we start playing Thursday nights. That's going to be the biggest test to see how it's affecting our Sundays. So yeah, I do think you take a lot out of these 3 games. You certainly take that he trusts his players, the ones that he usually play for him, and that's it seems. But that's how he's always been. We always know he's like small squad. That's what Wolves said, and that's why he didn't get on that well with Spurs. But things have got to improve. We've given the coach an incredible squad to play with. Whether that's not his particular one he wanted or not, we don't know. But I think any head coach would like to come and have a go with what's on offer in our football club at the minute. I don't think it's ever been so good. So we've got to make sure it's right.
Pete and Mikey, have you got to go? I can't remember what the timings were at all for you two.
Yeah, 5 minutes for me.
Yes.
Right. Well, 5 minutes is probably as long as it'll take for you to give your final thoughts. So, Pete, any final thoughts?
That's 5 minutes each, I presume.
Yeah. Split. I'll put the countdown on you if I need to. Any final thoughts before you go, Pete?
I don't know if I've really got any, to be honest. I hope that we come out of the end of the day and the Bakwa deal has got over the line, because that's one that I've been excited about for a long time. It sounds like the left back is probably a pretty solid addition and a relatively small outlay in the grand scheme of things, which it seems like that's what they've been looking for in fullback and backup positions, which makes an awful lot of sense. Otherwise, I'm not too sure what to say about it, really. It feels sort of ludicrous to me that we're in a position where we're talking about major change at the football club. Obviously, there's been a lot going on leading to that situation, and as things stand, I don't think many of us know the real story there. I'm sure that will all come out in the coming days and weeks and months and years. But I hope that whatever is going on can be healed, because I just don't think it makes any sense for the football club to be going through significant change right now after so much progress in a positive transfer window. It feels like I should be feeling an awful lot more positive and excited than I am right now. And actually, I've sort of got that slight unpleasant feeling in the pit of my stomach, where I just don't think that's where we should be right now as a football club. But we'll see how it all plays out. And good luck for the rest of the stream. Hopefully you don't have to deal with anything too mad happening.
Hopefully not. I'll check this is right. Werder Bremen have signed Boniface, the striker, so that might limit Taiwo's chance to go. And Sunderland are signing the right back, who we were linked with as well, Geertruida, or whatever his name was, who sounded. If you play Football Manager, he was amazing. So I think we've missed out on him if we were ever really in for him. Pete, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Mikey,
cheers, guys. Enjoy.
Cheers, mate.
We shall. Mikey, anything from you before we go? Or you go?
Yeah. Just one or two quick things. I think, I don't know whether you're going to use that graphic that I sent you earlier at some point, Matt, which is basically how our squad looks now. But as much as we're disappointed, and this first hour has been very cathartic for all of us, including myself, you take a step back, you take a deep breath, you have a look at that squad, and you have a look at those options, and we are in the strongest place we've probably ever been in, seriously. And well, other than when we were winning European Cups, I'm talking about in recent memory. The squad, as Greg quite rightly said, is looking pretty good. So if we get this left back over the line and Bakwa over the line as well, he's got some serious options there, which should give us all heart and all a bit of positivity that we can fight on all fronts this season and give a good account of ourselves. Sunday was not a good account of ourselves at all. That's not us. That's not what we're about. So I just want everybody just to, and I'm the worst at this, just take a deep breath. Let's be excited, because it's Forest and there's an hour to go and you know something mad's going to happen. So I wish the rest of the guys luck, because I'm expecting something to happen. But I think in general, we're in a good place. Sunday was disappointing. But as Lewis will tell you, sometimes it works. As you said, Lewis, sometimes it works on the pitch. Sometimes everybody just has an off day. And Sunday was an off day. But I don't think that would define our season. I expect it to bounce back. And we're going to bounce back with the best squad we've had in years. So let's just all be positive.
Lovely. We shall let Mikey go. Appreciate that. Good man. Right.
Thanks, guys.
See you in a bit. Fabrizio Romano.
Yeah.
Fabrizio Romano tweeting Javi Galán to Nottingham Forest. Here we go. Permanent deal for Atletico Madrid. Left back's been sealed right now. He is 30. He started 21 games for Atletico last season in League One. La Liga. League One, but we're not talking about League One ever again. He was on loan the season before at Sociedad, and then he was a Celta Vigo player before that, and he was a regular in La Liga, and he sounds like a solid addition, certainly. Do we need a left-footed left-back, Lewis? Was that absolutely essential? Are we limited as good as Nico is by not having a proper left-footed option at left-back?
Yeah, no, I think we spoke about it before. I think it's really, really vital to try and get that balance. I think we talked about Moreira last year in terms of when he came in initially, kind of the impact and balance he had. But I think it's really key. I think Nico's been terrific, kind of since his move to that position and made it his own. But I when we're talking about squads now and putting stuff together, I think it's vitally important that you have that balance of a out and out left footer on that side.
Let's take a word for the Trent Navigation, because we're an hour and 11 minutes in and I haven't done anything on that front. Music coming up, a couple of gigs on the horizon. There's the Manchester Legends of Manchester gig, and there's the Cure Heads, tickets from fatsoma.com. Cure Heads Friday the 5th of September and 11th of October for Legends of Manchester. Like I say, tickets from fatsoma.com. And then next game on TV is obviously the Arsenal one, and you will be able to watch that at the Nav. Chris, would you be on board if we did sign Adama Traore, or do you think that's the mad hill for Nuno to die on?
I don't know. It's kind of been a mad couple of months, obviously, since Morgan Gibbs-White ended up staying. Things have sort of turned for the positive in the transfer window, and albeit a late window, we've had a flurry of signings the last couple of weeks. And I kind of even at the start of the window, we all said we probably needed 8 or 9 players for Europe, and we all picked the positions we needed, and we needed those extra wingers and those fullbacks and the keepers and everything. But I think we've got the wingers, haven't we? I think if we get the Bakwa deal over the line, that's Hutchinson, Bakwa, Ndoye and Hudson-Odoi, and that's enough. And McAtee can even play out there. So
there's the talk that we're going back in for Traore. I think Fulham laid it down, but they are signing a winger, Samuel Chukwueze, I think it is how you say it. So they are getting a right winger in, certainly.
But I suppose, I saw the talk about Traore, but I suppose my point is, if we're getting Bakwa, don't we have enough?
Well, yeah, I think so. That's the problem. What do you do with Hutchinson?
That's what I'm saying. No, but that's what I'm saying. I didn't mind Traore as a backup as long as he was like the third or fourth winger. But if we're getting back when we're spending 35 million on him, I don't think we need Traore as a fifth choice. I don't think we need him. I don't think we have the space. So I don't mind Traore. I think he'd be a decent backup. He's got a lot of pace, and he was Nuno's man at Wolves. But if we're signing Bakwa, that's Bakwa, Hutchinson, Traore, and Ndoye and Hudson-Odoi, and I think it's enough. I just don't think we need it. So yeah, I'd be happy to have him if we don't get Bakwa, but it looks like the Bakwa deal is going to go through. So yeah, I don't think we need a fifth choice winger.
No, I don't think so. Don't know the Galán fee, Paul. Like you say, transfer market is valued at 4 million for whatever's that is worth, certainly. I just want to talk about Morgan a little bit more. He's getting some hammer for his performances. People saying he should be dropped and McAtee should come in. I'll ask Lewis about Morgan in a minute, but where are you at on Morgan Gibbs-White, Greg? I mean, he's in the England squad, but is he in line for a rest at any point soon?
I don't think so. He's a generational talent. He's incredible, but he had a shocking game yesterday, and he, for me, should have come off at half time. And that may have kind of done some bits. I don't know if it would have helped or not. But he had a poor game yesterday. He was partly to blame for the Palace goal. And he just needs to wise up. He's a fantastic player, like I say, generational talent. And he should hopefully be in our team for many years to come. But players are only as good as their last game as well, aren't they? So his spot is by no means secured, especially with what's behind.
Thank you very much to McPhee. Is that Matt? He's saying,
yeah.
I know Charles Bronson was a Forest fan. That's your mate, Matt, isn't it? So
please let him respond.
Yeah, no, it's that's my alleged friend Matt who's slagging me off there straight away. But yeah. I'm with Greg on Morgan Gibbs-White. I know we were going to ask Lewis, who'll have much more experience as someone who's played in that kind of position than me. But I'm with Greg on it. I think that like he had a really good first game, and then against Palace he was disappointing, and then the first half of yesterday was unacceptable. And you have to hook him. You have to be brave enough as a manager to hook him at half time when you have a player like McAtee on the bench.
I'll ask you just on Lewis, on McGugan, on Morgan in general, Lewis, about whether he should come off or not and things like that. Is our attack too reliant on him? If Morgan Gibbs-White plays badly, does our attack fall apart too much, or am I reading that wrong?
Listen, it has a massive effect because of the player he is and the kind of onus we have on at that top end of the pitch, what he brings to the team, and we all know when he's on his game, he's unplayable. And relative of Sunday was that it was just an off day for him. And sometimes in that position, that players, and I'm talking sometimes from experience, sometimes when it's not going your way, you try a little bit too hard and you try and get yourself out of trouble, and you try maybe, but all you're doing really is making it worse, and instead of sometimes just simplifying things and working yourself into the game. But like I said, with the guys' points, I think what's the important thing is now at times maybe of taking him off, it allows him to reset. It allows him to kind of reset himself and think, right, let me have a look from the outside a little bit. And sometimes that might be the best thing for him. You have to look a lot of the time when he's fit, he plays, and he plays week in, week out. And sometimes as a human being, he might need a bit of a rest in terms of the last half of it, see how someone else comes in. And that's when we're talking about having a squad now. We've got the players that hopefully can come into them positions and impact the game. And it's going to take, for us to kick on again, it's going to take a squad. And that's what it seems like the club is trying to assemble. But it's now, again, important to try and use them when needed. And I think from all of us watching on Sunday, potentially it was a time where we could have changed it up and allowed to have a different look, especially maybe McAtee in that 10 role.
Does he have to learn? Because I think he's 25, 26, and you'll know from experience, Lewis, of playing this role. Does he have to learn to simplify his game when things are going badly then? Because like you say, he got the ball on the half turn quite a lot in the second half, and his radar was all over the shop. When you're playing like that, do you have to learn to simplify things rather than keep trying, the 1% ball too much?
Yeah, and that's just, again, a part of developing, part of maturing. And he'll understand that. I'm sure the staff, and when they go through the videos and the analyst side of it, they'll be looking at them things, and he will know. And we've always spoke a lot of time about England and about his kind of recognition he gets. And I think we see him week in, week out and what he does. But I always feel that for him to go to that next level, he needs to become more efficient. And when I say efficient, it's kind of on them goals and assists. At times, I feel he gets himself in great areas, but I just feel like sometimes he's got to kind of shoot and have that kind of end product where he's probably trying to find that last little flicking pass where he doesn't really need to do it. And I think if he becomes more efficient in that top area, I think then you can start really having them conversations of the top number 10s in the world, and especially in Europe. But I think right now, I think he shows great moments, but at times he does complicate things. And I think if he wants to go to that next level and be talked about in the same kind of conversation as them really, really top number 10s, I think he needs to become more efficient in certain times, in certain areas where the ones that aren't seeing him week in, week out, it's Gibbs-White scored again, Gibbs-White's assist. And it's just that efficiency, what I think is missing from his game. But you look at it, the flicks and some of the stuff he does on other weeks, we sit there in amazement as a fan base, and he does those things. So when they don't go right, we spoke about this in the Palace game in terms of flick on the edge of the box. He does that. He did it in the game higher up. Yeah, in terms of the position where it was on the pitch, it wasn't probably the best thing to do. But we do laud that unpredictability he has at times, and the stuff that he does that amazes some people. So sometimes that doesn't go to plan. But again, he's just got to look at it now. Maybe it's a chance for him to reset. He'll go away with obviously England now, but he's got to come back. This competition for places, so he's got to get his head down again and really make sure that he's this main part of this team.
So talking of competition for places then, Greg, this will tell us a bit of a barometer of how much of a reaction we have to the team selection-wise to the Arsenal game. With the squad we've got now, potentially Bakwa adds to that, obviously. How many changes are you making at Arsenal right now? Admittedly, a long time away from the game, but if you were picking a team now.
See, this is the annoyance that these players are going to have one of their toughest tests of the season as their debut for Forest. You know, they obviously weren't ready, but it annoyed me that we didn't see them start. And for me, now, hopefully everyone comes back fit from international duty. Have we got 14 or something?
14 away, yeah. 14
Yeah,
away.
so I think that's going to have a bigger effect on team selection against Arsenal, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's 2 changes, maybe. If it depends if Nuno's in charge. I think if Nuno isn't in charge, there'll be more changes than that. But if he is, I'd expect 2. I mean, Wood wasn't really on it either, was he, yesterday? But then again, he didn't really have much service, so we don't know. It's just good we've got options.
We've got a League Cup game coming up as well, as Dan points out, against Swansea, which is certainly useful. Yeah, I think for me, Chris, I mean, I'm backing Chris Wood. We can talk about him a bit. You know, he's brilliant against Brentford. I don't see a need to change him yet. Undoy and Sangare, and I'm not bashing Sangare, but I think our midfield can be longer term elevated by getting Louise in there, hopefully, would be the 2 that I'd be looking at after 2 weeks of training. So only 2 changes for me when I gave this some thought. But what about you?
Pretty much the same. I think I suppose the thing is as well is that's a tough game away at Arsenal. I kind of want that sort of Roy Keane element of let the lads who messed up last weekend, yesterday, play against Arsenal and go straight into the fire. And then if they're not performing, then hook them. And I'm not trying to throw away points or anything, because I think that we always have a chance against Arsenal, particularly at home. I know this is away and it's going to be a tough game, but I would say 1 or 2 changes, but you know, let the lads who didn't play well enough, put them back in the fire against Arsenal, give them their 2 weeks break. A lot of them are going away to play international football with their countries and come back. I'd probably look at maybe changing Ndoye just to give another winger a chance, like you said. And I probably do want to see Douglas Luiz come in, to be honest. I want to see what he can do. And obviously you're throwing him into the Wolves at a high level game, but he's well capable of doing it. So I'd like to see him come in as well. But yeah, I would throw Morgan Gibbs-White straight back into the fire in a really difficult game, and if he's not up to speed against Arsenal, then do hook him at halftime. But he was terrible yesterday, and Aina wasn't good yesterday either. So I would have considered replacing Aina if we had a right back straight away ready to go. And I know we paraded one round yesterday in the game, but I wouldn't. I would still put Aina in because I think we're going to need that pace of his when it comes up against Arsenal's wingers. So give them another shot, throw them in the fire. If they don't do well enough, then definitely hook them earlier than he did yesterday, you know?
1,000 people with us again. Fantastic. Do us a favour, hit like and subscribe. That'd be brilliant. Greg's got to go in a couple of minutes. So I'll give him a final word shortly. After a honking result and a pretty terrible performance, Lewis, did you have, I don't know if more respect's the right word or not, for a manager who didn't make a ton of changes and said, go out there and right the wrongs? How do players react to those kind of team selections the week after?
Yeah, I think the reality of the international break, obviously there's going to be a break in there. There's going to be a lot of players that are going to spend a lot of time away, which potentially might be a good thing, might be a chance to kind of get into a different environment and then come back ready for it. I think again on Chris's point, when you're looking at the Arsenal game in terms of setting up, large parts of that game they're probably going to be without the ball. So in terms of looking at it tactically, you also potentially want to think, we're talking about Douglas Luiz and we're talking about the kind of ability he has to move the ball, well from that central area. When the time that it turns over and Nottingham Forest will get the ball, we need to make sure that we look after it. We need to make sure that we have that quality on the ball. So that's maybe a look at it. But also potentially look at it as managers do now, which you have to, maybe a starting team and a finishing team, because again, that's the ability that we have in this squad now. And again, a large parts of that game for the first 60 minutes potentially we're not we're not going to see the ball a lot, and it's going to be a lot of kind of sitting in formation, sitting in blocks, and waiting for that release. And if you stay in the game, you build that confidence, then you have the opportunity and the options on the bench to come on, and then you can kind of really have a push with the last half an hour. So maybe that's something that the manager will look at. But again, I think in terms of if we're at home against a different team, maybe kind of them options become more valid. But I think going away to Arsenal is one, if not the toughest game you'll have in the Premier League. So I think we've got to be very careful that we pick the right team, the right tactic, and make sure that we stay in the game for as long as possible.
We'll talk more about use of the bench and the importance of using 5 subs, and we'll talk a bit more about Chris Wood, certainly. Greg, anything you want to add before you have to go?
It's just nice that Nottingham Forest aren't the story, it seems, the last hour or so. I think the Palace situation's fascinating, and I suppose the ripples could affect us eventually with choices of managers. But if Gahey goes to Liverpool, then it sounds like things are done with Glasner. So, yeah, I'll be watching that one with interest.
Yeah, definitely. Right, we'll let you go.
All right, see you later.
See you in a bit.
See you, Greg.
Yeah, we'll talk a bit more about Glasner. I want to talk about Willisula as well. Not necessarily about the player, but the state of the market, where there was a £30 million fee for him. Someone made a good point about Chris Wood, actually. Like I would definitely back him as our main striker. But he's going away with New Zealand, and I haven't looked where their fixtures are. But Jetsari here, if I'm saying that right, saying you could leave him in this game, don't run him into the ground. I suppose the thing there is, Chris Wood's defensive work shouldn't be underestimated as well. Can you get Callum Wendo or Igor Jesus to do the other side of the game like Chris Wood does in a big game like Arsenal away, whereas Lewis says you're not going to have the ball?
Yeah, that is the question. And like the thing is, Chris Wood defensively is very good on set pieces as well. We notice he gets back there. We've been pretty good and pretty solid defensively on set pieces, and it's because of people like Chris Wood. Even West Ham there yesterday, they had plenty of corners and set pieces, and we did really well to stave them off. I think Woody Boy as well, from the outset, when we're sitting in our shape, he does a really good job at like running from man to man and sort of splitting the defenders defensively. He does a lot of hard work there, and it seems to go unnoticed because he scored so many goals. But yeah, you're right. Defensively, he's really, really important, and you just want to make sure that whenever that striker comes in, and I know when Taiwo came in last year, he did a bit of that work pretty well, but you just want that striker to keep harrying and hassling and keep that focal point at the apex of that formation shape when we're in our defensive shape. And hopefully they can, but I think it is a good point. I do think it's a good point to maybe potentially see what Calamundo or Jesus will do. And maybe Jesus is up to speed enough. He's been with us long enough now in pre-season and beyond. But yeah, like also on the break, and Woody can be good on the break. He makes his move when the wingers get forward, but on the break, it might be nice to have a really, really fast pace forward rather than sort of a number 9 initially, because if we do sit in, as Lewis says, and we break, having 2 or 3 lightning quick forwards and someone like Calamundo who has a bit of pace might be nice to see, and it might cause Arsenal some problems, particularly if Saliba is out, because he looked like he might be injured.
I'm just looking up these fixtures for New Zealand, and then I'll come back to it. Someone says they're playing, Az says they're playing Australia twice, home and away, so that would be a long trip for him. Well, I'll check the dates of the games as well. What about Douglas Luiz, Lewis? Again, we don't know how Nuno views him in terms of fitness and everything, but 2 weeks of work on the training ground with a player should hopefully get him up to speed. Is that an area where you would change things against Arsenal, or does that midfield 3 of Luiz, Anderson and more Gibbs-White not suit us if that's against a team like that?
Yeah, it's a tough one, really. Like we said, I think in terms of his quality, I think it would be nice to kind of implement him into the team. But again, my last point where we're saying about the mobility, what will be needed at Arsenal, if he's not quite at his levels, then that's potentially putting him into a situation that is going to be no good for him, and more importantly, no good for the team. So that's something that they're going to have a look at over this international break. Whereabouts is he in terms of his fitness when he came into the building? What can we do over that period? yes, okay, he's training every day, he's getting there, but he's nothing like match sharpness and match minutes. So that might be a point where they might have to kind of bed him in. But again, there's 2 games now that he hasn't come on. So potentially you might like to see if they're forward thinking that they want to involve him from the start in say the Arsenal game. Potentially you might have seen him have a few minutes in the last 2 games. But again, we'll wait and see. But I think on the ball, listen, I think he's going to improve this team. He's going to improve the midfield, that's for sure. But I think especially away from home at Arsenal, mobility is key, especially in that kind of middle area. So it's an important decision for the manager to make.
Az is doing good work here. He's right. Yeah, Chris Wood's last game for New Zealand is on the Tuesday, so he could be back. We are the early kickoff on the Saturday though, so that probably takes a day out of it. So I can see why he wouldn't. What do you think about just the state of the market, Chris? Like 30 million quid for Will Asula. He's got 2 goals in is it 2 goals in 60 league games or something like that? Yeah, is this the madness of the market now that someone could pay 30 million quid? I don't know if the transfer has gone through, but the deal was agreed with Frankfurt.
Well, yeah, it is. I mean, what was Wissa? Was he 55 million in the end?
55 million. We can talk about him as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So Wissa was 55 million, and we thought we might be able to get him for 30, and we bid like 22 or something at one stage. Voltamede or whatever, your man who went to Newcastle, I can't remember what his price tag, but it was pretty big. Combined price tag of him and Wissa will come close to what they sold Isaac for. So yeah, I think unfortunately it is. And like, we're looking at all the wingers that we're buying, they're all 30, 35 million. This is where we are now. You know, like we signed Chris Wood for 20-ish million 2.5 years ago. And obviously he's paid back in spades. But right now, looking at it, if that was back then, we were thinking that was a lot of money. But it is what it is. It's unfortunately where we are. The market is massively inflated, particularly this summer. All the transfers have happened this summer as well. You look at Man United, they signed Højlund for 70 million. And now they're selling him off to Napoli, I think. Garnaccio's price was 40 million. They think that's way too low, and I tend to kind of agree. It's mad. The market has gone mad. But you know what? Look, I mean, we've done the best we can. We sold Elanga for 55 million ourselves. But yeah, Wissa for 55 million is bonkers considering we bid half of what that was.
Yeah, I think we've done pretty well. I think we've overpaid for Hutchinson right now based on his current ability, but his potential ability, hopefully he turns into another Elliot Anderson. But otherwise, I think we've done pretty well. 55 million for Wissa, Lewis. Like Chris says, we were talking about 25, 30 million. We were saying don't go above 30. Newcastle paid 55 million quid for a player who's really engineered his transfer as well, just like Isak. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I agree with Chris. I just think it's bonkers where the current market is. I think some of the I think I seen something earlier, and I'm not sure if it's 100% correct, but it was the fact they've paid 55 million for Wissa, 29 years old, a year left on his contract, and potentially going away with the African Nations Cup in January. So does that make, so if you look at that in terms of quality, in terms of value for it, it's just crazy. But again, Newcastle in that situation where they feel they have to act, and again, everyone knows they're in that situation, and it's a domino effect. It's a constant domino effect, and people have been put in situations where they feel that they have to go and get a player before the window shuts, and the clubs know that they need them players, and I think when you look at it, it doesn't make any sense, because we talk about that price, that then we talk about Mark Gahey potentially going to Liverpool, 35 million in terms of England international, played in the World Cup, Palace captain. Yes, he's still got a year left, but again, I think that's still a really good deal. You know what I mean, in terms of the money's there. So you see some crazy ones where you're trying to kind of piece together how do you get to that figure, and then you see some ones where you think to yourself, "Oh, you know what? That's a bit of a steal in terms of the current market." So I just think it's just where football is at the minute. I think at times that people, these clubs are paying these amount of monies, and they're on 6, 7, 8, 9 year deals, which is just crazy. But again, everyone doesn't want to be caught short. You know what I mean? This window's shutting. Everyone wants to make sure that they feel that they've got they've got everything that they can try and get, and within that there'll be a lot of panic buys and overspending.
Dilane Bakwa is reportedly undergoing his medical. He's expected to have it today, and according to Max Scott from TalkSport, he's having it right now, and Forest are confident they'll get it done for 7 p.m. That's a pretty tight turnaround, but I assume they'll just throw a contract at him and say sign that, and hopefully it's all good. I'm sure it isn't messing, but tight turnaround certainly. Just on Elanga, Lewis, Newcastle fans are soured on him already. Is he a player who you have to play the right football for to get the best out of him? And I wondered if Newcastle's football suits him perfectly or not. I suppose I'm asking, do you think he'll be a success there longer term?
Yeah, it's still really, really early days. I think what you also have to look at from his point of view, that he's gone into a situation which is a bit all over the place. They kind of aren't really at their full strength. Their main striker has been involved in a kind of tug of war the whole kind of transfer window. I think their front three potentially against Leeds was Livramento, Ramsey, and Asula. So kind of that just shows where currently they are potentially in terms of their squad. So I don't think he's gone into a situation that is ideal. Obviously, then they've lost Gordon as well with the sending off. So I think it's one of them. I watched a bit of the game, especially the first half when they played Villa. First games, and I thought he did okay. Again, that typical Elanga chance where he's through early on, and he's got that time to think. And I think potentially that's where he struggles, when he has that kind of longer time to think. I think when he does stuff off the cuff, I think he's better at that. But that kind of one-on-one scenario, we've had a few of them occasions at the City ground where he hasn't taken them chances. So listen, I think he's gone there. He's chosen to gone there. To that club, and they need to find their way in terms of their squad and their strengths, and he's got to find himself how he fits into that model, really.
Let's just take a word for Global Telemetrics then. 20 minutes to go, and then we'll start to wrap things up and see what Forest can get over the line.
For the first time ever, Nottinghamshire was joint top with London for the most thefts for the month.
In July, they recovered £1.9 million worth of cars, and in total, it's over £192 million. Insane.
There was a comment recently saying the volume's fine on the podcast, but it's ear-splittingly loud for some of your adverts. So I might be getting another comment like that for that one. But thanks to Global Telemetrics for the video and for their support. As ever, link is in the description. Someone put a comment in. Mark's back. He's eating quick and he's back.
Yeah, well, it was a quick dinner. That's all right. I thought I'd join him for the last 20.
There was a comment from Jared saying, lots of people writing Ndoye off. I hope no one's writing Ndoye off. That's mad. 3 games and he's got a goal and assist. I do think there's a lot more to come from him, and I don't think he's settled in at all completely yet, but there's definitely a good player there. Have we seen the last of Ryan Yates, Chris? I think that's really premature, isn't it? He's not going to be a starter, but if he's willing to accept his current role and then start some games as we sit here right now, then we haven't seen the last of Ryan Yates, have we? I wouldn't have thought.
We won't see the last of Ryan Yates until we really, really do know that he's not playing anymore. Like he's proved everyone wrong a million times over. Yes, we have more midfield options and better technical players in front of him in that position, but no, we haven't seen the last of him. And I'm sure as the season wears on with the League Cup, the extra Europa League games, there'll be plenty of chance for him to either come in and start or even just off the bench. We will get injuries. That'll happen as well throughout the season as well. And Dominguez is going to take a little while to get back. I think he's come back from a fairly big injury as well. So no, definitely not the last of Yatesy. And the small amount I have seen him this season, I think he came off the bench against Palace. He looked pretty good, to be honest. He settled things down pretty well. So yeah, no, definitely not. Yatesy's a legend.
Yeah, he did a good job against Brentford when he came on as well. I mean, I think, Mark, there's probably a role for Ryan Yates in the squad as long as he wants it. And it gets to the point where Kelv has said, and I'll ask Lewis about this as well, you hit a certain age where you feel like you want to start every week, but he's still a valuable squad player, isn't he? No matter what happens, even in the next 18 minutes.
Yeah, we got Carabao Cup, we got FA Cup. Obviously, he'll play some European games as well, so he'll start some of those games. I would have thought. I was surprised he didn't get on the pitch, to be honest, against against West Ham. I was calling for Douglas Luiz, but equally, Sangare could have gone off and Yates could have come on for the last 10, 15 minutes to give us some legs. So I don't know. I was a bit surprised we didn't see him, but yeah, he's definitely got a role to play. And like I say, he's going to get starts in those competitions. I don't see him starting many Premier League games now.
Sky Sports reports that Bakwa has completed his medical, so I would assume they can get all the contracts signed in the next 15 minutes if that's accurate, and he can be presented or announced officially past 7 p.m. But that sounds like good news, certainly. What point, Lewis, in your career, is there an age where you think I've got to be starting week in, week out, even if that means a move to a lower league club or a club that's not as prominent in the league you're in? Is there a point for Yates or any lad really where you think, actually, like Toff, I probably need to move on for the good of my career?
Yeah, I think it's different stages. I don't think it always comes down to an age. I think, again, you always want to play. You always want that opportunity. And I think as a player, as long as you feel that that door is always open and you can get that, you can work for that opportunity. Potentially when it stops, where you feel like you have to go somewhere else, is where you feel like no matter really what you do, you're probably not going to kind of make that team, and that's when you have to consider looking at a different option. But like I said, I look at Yatesy in terms of what he is in that squad, the amount of games that this team are going to play this season. But also from a club point of view, we have to look at, he feels the homegrown, which is massive, what sometimes you forget about. So in terms of all these players coming in terms of Yates potentially leaving it, he then leaves a homegrown slot, which is again something that these football clubs have to think about even more so now when the Europa League squad and stuff like that. So he carries a lot of weight at all, not just on his performance and the way he is in terms of his captaincy role, but also the kind of that homegrown quota as well.
Christian asks, anyone concerned about the size of the squad? What area are you concerned about it, Christian? You mean lack of balance or something, like not enough fullbacks? Some whispers that the Gallen deal's collapsing. That would be a problem. I'll just check that out, certainly. But yeah, do weigh in on that. Actually, Mark, that would be an issue, wouldn't it? Because I don't see how we could get anyone in 15 minutes, could we? If who was the alternative? I can't even remember who it was earlier. Oh, Cuiabano. Yeah,
look, I mean, Romano's reporting that it's not ready for the paperwork, so yeah.
Well, it's not going to happen then.
It's not good, is it? That doesn't give us the cover at left side. So what do we do? Loan market? I don't know. That's a difficult one.
Well, yeah, free agents. I mean, Sergio Reguilon has got an agent who is connected to a few Forest players. Yeah, Kia might be able to put a call in for him. But yeah, that could be an issue, certainly. Josh Bowler has left Forest by mutual consent after not playing a single game. I don't know. Chris, do you have anything to say about Josh Bowler? I don't know. Throwing you a hospital pass there. What can you say?
Nothing really. He was part of the big influx of players 3 years ago when we did that mad sort of 22 signings that ended up working out in the end. No, not really. I remember one time in training, I saw one of the training videos from a couple of years ago, and he came back from his loan spell. I thought, oh yeah, he might get in there. I mean, I was mad, I think, to even think that. No, fair play to him. Look, he's a decent championship player. He's never been able to compete at the level with some of the wingers we've had since. So look, wish him all the best, but no, nothing to say. That's about it.
Going back to fullbacks, Lewis, how big a problem would it be if we can't get another left back in? And maybe we could sign Reguilon, but he's a free agent who hasn't had a pre-season. How worried or concerned would you be with Savona, who has never kicked a ball in England? I'm not sure he speaks English, but I would be corrected on that. Ola and Nico, and we've got a lot of games to play.
Yeah, it wouldn't be ideal. It wouldn't be ideal, and I think the importance of this move, because we've spoke about, is that having that balance, that left-footed player, kind of having that balance for that team, and having a left-footed player, especially defender, in that squad if needed. So I think it would be a worry, especially now this late in the window. I know that clubs have different options in case these things happen, in terms of they have the first option. That might not happen. Some it might be in terms of the clubs can't agree. There will be different options. There'll be 2, 3, 4 different options. So, but again, time's not on our side. So hopefully things are going off in the background that we're trying to make sure we can step in on someone else if this does collapse. But I think it's vitally important that we not only get a fullback in terms of from that left side, but is also that left-footed to provide balance.
Yeah, there was Cuiabano. I know people are saying Cuiabano in the chat, obviously, who is a left back, but he seems like he's been playing left winger for quite a while for Botafogo. So I'm not sure if he's a Premier League level left back yet or not. I don't know, to be honest. So I would hope that he will come in, certainly. How are you feeling about the state of the squad then, Mark? We'll start to wrap things up a little bit, and I'll probably put this out as an audio version. But as we sit here right now, if Bakwa signs, Cuiabano signs, how would you be feeling about the state of our squad?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the left back situation, we needed 2 strong fullbacks to help rest Aina and Nico, but you know, it is what it is. I mean, that we'll likely try and look for options there to give us some cover, but apart from that, we look well provisioned. I think that the 6 is still an issue for me. I presume Douglas Luiz has been bought to play the 6. I hope so, because I don't see him getting in the side in another position. I don't see, he's got to be a starter given his pedigree in the Premier League, and you know, he's not come to us to sit on the bench and play Carabao Cup games or the occasional European game. He's surely come to us as a starter. So I see him playing in the 6 over Sangare, because I've always had concerns about Sangare in that role, and I think, you know, what we saw Sunday highlighted it again. So I still think we're a bit thin there, really. I still think that's the main issue, is defensive midfield. Dominguez coming back can play that role, will give us extra cover in central midfield. No doubt out wide, we've got a lot of options now, and it'll be really interesting to see what we do with those options, because Ndoye has been thrown in, and I think he needs time, like you said. So I'd like to see Hutchinson start, but then now we've got another option. So it's we've got a wealth of talent in the wide positions. It's a great place to be. I think Calamundo promises a lot in terms of giving us something different down the middle. I don't know if Taiwo's staying. I don't know what the latest is on that. But yeah, I think we're in a good place now. I think the only regrettable thing, and Nuno said this, is that they've come late. And so we haven't had a pre-season with them. We haven't got them settled into our system. So it's going to take time for them to bed in, and for, if it is Nuno still managing and coaching the side, for him to build a team around that new talent.
Victoria, thank you for correcting me. It says Savona did do an English intro video, and he seemed like he spoke good English, so that's good. I'll come to Chris in 1 minute. I'm going to give Lewis a chance to talk about midfielders who should be able to do everything, and I'll ask you this question and you can bat it away, Lewis. But is Elliott not going to end up being the deepest lying midfielder? I feel like Luiz, he seems like he's played his best football as a more advanced number 8, or are you just annoyed at me throwing terms around like 6, 8, 10 and all that nonsense?
Yeah, you know, Matt, that I'm not a fan of.
I know you too well, yeah.
Generation of football, and it's all these, I can only play 6, I can only play 8, and that's why I think the total admiration and the kind of the following Anderson's had, because I think he's your kind of back to old school midfielder. I think he can do it all, and I think that's why he's been so instrumental in terms of the performances and what he's done at this football club so far. With your question with him going in there, I think I don't think that would be fair on him. I think he's got so much more to his game. I think he can do it, not a problem, but I just think potentially you take a few things from him. I think he's that player that can, in this role, I think he plays both. He sits in there at time, but he also drives from that midfield, and I think it'll be very key to allow him to still do that. I think Douglas Luiz, and we go off Aston Villa and what he did there, that predominantly was his role there. He kind of sat in there and was the kind of conductor and orchestrator things from in there, and hopefully potentially can he do that role. it depends again how we set up and what the manager wants from him. But I feel that he can play that 6 role. I feel that he's got that defensive side enough to do it, but I also think he's got so much more on the ball to kind of start us from that position. And I think from him playing that role, I think we'll look a lot different. I really do. I think again, the importance of that area is so key. And I've always said for a long time, for us to go to that next level, I think we need that not a holding midfield, but that midfield that plays a bit deeper, but it plays a bit deeper in terms of to start a lot of the patterns from him, start a lot of the attacks, the balls kind of go through him. And I think that's something Douglas Luiz can do. Again, we've got to remain to see what his role will be. But from your first question, I wouldn't like Anderson in there because I think it kind of takes a few restrictions from his game.
Mark said about Taiwo. Looks like he's not going anywhere today. I see someone in the chat pointing out in leagues like Saudi Arabia, Turkey, their window closes significantly later, and I could see Taiwo potentially making that kind of move. But that's one to monitor. But I think he certainly needs a loan. We probably might discuss him in a minute. What about the state of the squad in general, Chris, then looking between now and January, if we assume Bakwa gets done as expected and Cuiabano, although we've not heard anything since this morning, seems like he probably will get done.
Yeah, if Cuiabano gets done, that's your sort of left back, obviously more attacking left wing back that we have. If that Callan deal did collapse, circling back to the fullbacks in general, Dan Bastford mentioned in the comments there, and I was thinking the same thing. Aina and Williams have played both right and left back, so one of them can interchange and one of them can rest, hopefully. Obviously, that's not ideal. We want them in those positions, and then we want rotational players for them, but we have a right back, and hopefully Cuiabano comes in. I was sat here, I think, about 2 months ago with Mark. It was just before Elanga left, and I remember we were a bit panicked because we expected 9, 10, 11 players, and I know that all the flurry of players have come in, and albeit late, as Mark has said, and Lewis has mentioned, albeit late, it's not ideal, but I think we've got to be happy that they're in, because we've got a lot of European games coming up. We've got a lot of League Cup and FA Cup games. Hopefully we go deep in one of those competitions, if not both. And we've got the Premier League as well on the weekend. So I think ultimately we've got to look at this transfer window as a big win. We kept Morgan Gibbs-White, who was our star player. We got rid of Elanga, but we sold quite a lot of players for well over 100 million combined. And then we have brought in players in most of the key areas that we expected. So squad wise, I'm happy. Ultimately, it's a win of a window. It's just a little bit late for Nuno's preseason. I get all that, but ultimately we've got the backup now. And a lot of people complain about, and they say, "Oh, you're doing it, Chelsea. You stockpiling players." Well, Chelsea finished 4th last season. It seemed to work for them. So I'm happy enough. Get as many squad players in as we possibly can, and it looks like we've covered most positions.
Yeah, I don't even think we're stockpiling players. If anything, we're a bit light in one or two areas, certainly. All right, Mark, if we look at the window as a whole then, because as Chris said, you were worried about it. Hutchinson, Ndoye, Callum Owendo, McAtee, Igor Jesus, Savona, Jaya Cunha, John Victor, Douglas Luiz, Angus Gunn are the ones that have come in. Ilanga's gone. Danilo's gone. Scored a great goal, by the way, and all power to him in Botafogo. Sosa's gone. Omar Bamidele's gone. Turner's gone. Miguel's gone, and then some more fringy players. And we kept Morgan as the other big one. How would you be assessing that window overall?
Well, it's like 8 or 9, I would say. I think I'm very happy with the business we've done and the players we've been bringing in. I like a lot of the players that we brought in. I think obviously Calamundo and Ndoye were yet to see settle, but I think with Hutchinson and McAtee we brought proven potential. They were in the England under 21 side that won that tournament. Of course, they were, along with Anderson, were mainstays in that side. Okay, Hutchinson came off the bench a few times, but he had a good tournament and scored an important goal, and there's no question his potential. So I think it's a good mix of, obviously we've taken a bit of a gamble with Ndoye and Calamundo in terms of will they settle, will they be able to produce the numbers that they've done elsewhere in the Premier League. But we're a team have got to do that. We can't go to that AAA talent, if you like, that top tier. We've got to take a risk on players and hope that they can come in, have an impact like Murillo has done, and double their value, and it's too early to judge, but hopefully those two will do that. And Bakwa the same. I mean, he's in that bracket as well, where he's got good numbers and he's highly thought of, lots of potential. Will he be able to do it and translate that to the Premier League? Let's see. But he's an exciting talent, and yeah, we've got exciting, game-changing players now. So when Nuno turns round, and I just hope he does turn around more often than he did on Sunday, he should see options there that can win us games and turn games in a matter of minutes. We haven't had that. Nuno's never had that. And so I'm excited to see what we can do with that talent and how we create that new blend, whatever our best 11 is. Perhaps, it'll be very, very fluid. And, you talked about Douglas Luiz and Anderson. I think the beauty of those two is they can interchange. I don't think one or the other will play the 6 or 8 or whatever. I think they can interchange. If they build that relationship, they're both capable of creating a fantastic blend in central midfield with Gibbs-White or McAtee in front of them. It's exciting, isn't it? We've got wide players as well. So I'm very happy with the players we brought in. I'm obviously just a little bit worried by what's going on and off the pitch and how it's going to settle and who the manager's going to be. And that's just the one thing that's put a dampener on things. Otherwise, we'd be very happy sitting here now with this window closing with those players brought in.
I think so, definitely. Sarah asks about Jota. Portuguese window doesn't close till midnight, I think, or might be 11 p.m. our time, and the Brazilian window doesn't close till tomorrow. And I say that because the teams he's been linked with are primarily Sporting Lisbon and Botafogo. So we'll see if he ends up there. Chris asks about Emmanuel Dennis. Yeah, he's gone. Josh Bowler's gone as well by mutual consent, if you missed that. What's your assessment of the transfer window, Lewis? Any disappointments, any gripes? How would you be rating it overall?
No, I think Mark's made some great points there. I think it's the excitement now of the manager being able to turn around and seeing the options that we have on the bench. And again, the big thing now is how does he go about getting them as up to speed as quick as possible, getting them really understanding what it would need in terms of in their role, what it would be when they come into this team. But I think it's a general excitement. I know we had the kind of the flat and the performance and the result on Sunday. But again, we have to look at where this squad is, where this football club is now going into Europe. I think it's just a really, really exciting time. And we've just not got to now, again, find the understanding of connecting all that together. And that's what the manager's there to do, along with the players. So it's just, hopefully we can sit back now and enjoy what hopefully is going to be a really exciting season.
Transfer windows closed then, 7 p.m. Someone just asking who was shouting. That was my daughter shouting quite loudly, even though she knew I was doing this. Transfer windows closed. We'll keep our tabs on it for the next 10 minutes or so, and then we'll pick this up tomorrow with Temps and Dan's story. Is the plan. Just on the transfers, Chris, before we go, have we signed enough players with Premier League experience? Have we signed too many players from Botafogo, or am I being picky there because there's only so much money to go around, and the Premier League big guns have really, really flexed their financial muscles this summer? And in truth, we've done some really good deals. How do you view the balance there?
I think we've done some really good deals. I think Hutchinson is talented. I know that he's only, he looked a bit rusty when he's come in, but he's only had a few minutes. I think he was one of the most talented and sought after players in sort of the lower end of the Premier League last year. He was Ipswich's main man. Obviously, I know they got relegated, but look at the lap. He was their main man as well, and he went to Chelsea. I think Hutchinson, McAtee's playing at City at a high level. At some stages, he was playing when players like Bernardo Silva were on the bench. I think Killamundo comes in with a lot of promise. A lot of people have told me about Bakwa and Ndoye, and obviously we've seen some of what Ndoye can do. Obviously he's again had some rusty moments, but assist and goal, as you said, two great actions. Like Igor Jesus has looked good from Botafogo, and he's no mug. He was playing in the Club World Cup, scoring against PSG. Jarcunya looks like a talent. I've heard Nathan Joyce talk about Jarcunya being an exceptional talent, and I think a lot of these players are really good. I think the window's been excellent. I even think Gunn as a second or third choice option as a keeper is a solid, smart move. And I think we've got enough experience there. Our first 11 obviously lost Elanga in that pace, but we knew that solid, that core was there and that group was good, and we've kept most of it together. And now we've added to it, and we've added a lot of competition as well. So yeah, no, I'm really happy with the window. And yeah, of course you're going to see Isak go to Liverpool and Bemo and Cunha go to Man United, and you're going to be panicking and worried. But Man United haven't got off to the greatest start. Even Man City haven't got off to the greatest start. I think these players are going to push for competition, and I think that'll be really, really useful in Europe as well.
Ben asked about No Bakwa. As long as we've submitted the relevant deal sheets, as they call it, in time before 7 p.m, then we don't have to have it announced by 7 p.m. So we can still be hopeful that deal will get done. Wrapping things up in the next 10 minutes or so then, Mark. The importance of the next 2 weeks. I'm thinking more so of clarification on the manager's situation. Do Forest have to say something or not? I just wonder. They said something about Cooper when things were looking bad. The owner came out and backed him. Do you think, would you welcome that from the club to bring some clarity or not?
I think it'd be nice. I mean, when is this meeting happening? I mean, even Nuno talked about the meeting, didn't he? And said,
yeah. Well, Marinakis was here yesterday, so I was assuming it was yesterday, but maybe it's today. Right. I don't know. I don't know the owner's movements.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of think because it's known that there's going to be this meeting, it would be good if there was some kind of statement out of that. Otherwise, it's like I said an hour ago, it leads to speculation, doesn't it? And people will speculate off the back of it. So I've said how I think it's going to go. I think he's going to leave. I think there's going to be a mutual consent announcement in the next few days. I would expect. So I don't know, but I think we have to get that settled. I don't want to go into Arsenal with a cloud of doubt over the situation. It's like you said earlier as well, like every time we lose a game or every time there's a bad performance or every time there's speculation that it's maybe getting to the players, and it's just going to go on and on and on. And that eventually will taint our season if we're not careful. So I think it's got to be brought to a close. And that close will either be a mutual consent statement and Nuno leaving, or Marinakis coming out and saying we're fully behind him, we're fully behind the manager and what he wants to do, and we're looking forward to the future with him in charge. So I'd like to see an outcome. I don't think that the club should leave it as we float into Arsenal and then we speculate again after that performance or however that might turn out. So it would be good, I think, for the club to come out and say something, given that this meeting is now a known thing that's going to happen or has happened.
Christian, good to have you with us and enjoy your Labour Day stateside. Appreciate that. Great to have 900 people with us still. Do us a favour and hit like before you go and before we go. Chris, final thoughts from you, I guess, around the Nuno situation. Do you want clarity in the next week or so? Is that a big priority for you?
Definitely, yeah. And I think over the last sort of 24 hours, I've thought about it, and I've got a bit more worried about the state of affairs, because I am leaning now towards thinking he might go, and it's not that I want him to go because I don't right now, but any manager is going to come under pressure when they put themselves in the spotlight like that, and he did that to himself. He did it pre-Brentford, and then he did it pre-Palace, and then it was a bit of a mess, and now this West Ham game, I think that forces everyone's hands to say something at least. So you either make a decision on the manager, and I hope we keep him, but you either make a decision on the manager or you make a statement. And I think you have to. I don't think it can be just left quiet. Like, I don't think we can go silent into the night for the next 2 weeks, as Mark said, and then we roll on Arsenal and then the doubt is there. Something needs to be said. And I suppose the disappointing thing is that Nuno, he did put himself in this position. I mean, we wouldn't be talking about this. Look at Emery. No one's talking about Emery going, and he's having a terrible first 3 games. We wouldn't be talking about it if he wasn't talking about it. So, yeah, something has to be done. And at this stage, like, no matter what I think or what I feel about keeping the manager or whatever, at this stage I just want it to be settled. I just want a decision to be made, and whether that's he stays, which is kind of what I want, and we move on to the next international break and we reassess then, great. But if it's he goes, do it quick, do it swift, get it done. But yeah, if he doesn't go, I want a statement and I want to hear what they have to say, because we can't just be in a cloud of darkness, you know.
Yeah, I agree. I see Jose's name getting mentioned in the chat. I mean, we'll cross that bridge if we come to it, but I do not see that as a successful appointment potentially. I mean, it could work out, but it could blow up massively, and we could be really set back. That's a conversation for another day. Lewis, anything you want to add? Any final thoughts from you about where we're at as a club, or are you tapped out after 2 hours?
No, I think everything's been said. I think again. We're in such a good position. We've had a transfer window which has been overall the money we've spent, the players that we've got in that squad have been fantastic. I agree with Chris and Mark, and again I think it's just now to get some closure and clarity on the situation, so we can all just move forward and again have that positive mindset going into what is going to be a fantastic season, hopefully on the Premier League side, but also the European journey as well.
It looks like the Atletico Madrid left back Galan is going to Real Sociedad instead, and he had a loan spell on there last season or the season before. So yeah, that one looks like it's done. Wrapping things up then, waiting to hear if Dilane Bakwa has signed in time or signed the deal sheet. Sounded like it should be positive on that. Cuiabano as well. Hopefully that one was done, but we haven't seen anything official. Josh Bowler and Emmanuel Dennis have gone. We've signed a couple of kids for the academy, and it hasn't been as chaotic as I feared it might be at one point. So yeah, feels like we're in a good place. Right, great to have everyone with us for 2 hours 5 minutes. Do us a favor, hit like, hit subscribe, do consider membership or Patreon or a lovely 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. We'll see what shakes out with those transfers that I just mentioned and deal sheets, and pick this up tomorrow with Temps and Dan Story at some point. Not quite sure on the time on that yet, but in the meantime, Mark, sort of 2 shifts here tonight. Thank you very much.
That's right. Yeah, no, it's good. I enjoyed transfer deadline day, and like you said, it wasn't as chaotic as I thought it was going to be some weeks ago. I thought we were going to have to do 5 or 6 deals on this day, and I'm glad we didn't have to do that. So yeah, overall, very happy with what we've got out of it. And as we've said, let's just get some closure now in the next 2 weeks before we go to the Emirates, and so we can move ahead positively.
Chris Aylmer, thank you very much.
No, thanks for having me. Great to be on with Lewis and Mark and everyone else who was on prior. And yeah, no, it's good. It's nice to jump on today after yesterday, because it was such a dreadful performance and some really awful performances, and Nuno's man management and stuff yesterday was terrible. And so it's nice to come in today and have a little bit more positivity. There's lots of stuff going on, and we can now finish on a bit of a positive note. So yeah, it's nice to see that. So thanks very much.
I remember this time last year, Lewis pointed out we had sod all to talk about, and we padded for 2 hours. It certainly hasn't been the case tonight. I think I might have padded for about 10 minutes when we ventured into Willa Sula territory, but it was still an interesting topic. Lewis, thank you very much.
No problem at all. Anytime.
Yeah, I'm sure Lewis will be back with us soon. Yeah, we'll talk about Omar Richards and all those guys tomorrow. I can see names in the chat. But in the meantime, have a good evening, everyone. And if we don't see you tomorrow, we'll see you soon.